Like always, you got this big, beautiful bill about to come out. And now you got the Democrats trying to run and jump and create the narrative. Get in front of the final votes before the votes are even out. You know, get in front of the headlines, create headlines, get out there with their own narrative. And that's what you're about to see here discussed.
We begin tonight with what President Trump calls his big, beautiful bill, which could be headed for a final vote in the Senate after a long day of debating amendments to it and perhaps for some Republican members staring into the abyss. Here's why. Polling consistently shows it is strikingly unpopular with voters.
I heard what he said. This bill is strikingly unpopular with voters. I don't know. I'm a voter, and I voted for Trump. I can't tell you what the hell is in the bill. And I guarantee you half of them people voting for the bill don't know what the hell is in the bill. So all we know is we want Trump to win. All right. It's 99 pages. Okay. And there's tax cuts for everyday working day workers, overtime, no tax on tips. Just think of any job any kind of middle class job you have where you're putting in overtime to really get by. And now half of your income won't have to be taxed. That's a huge raise, It's so funny. Like, I get so much work and I stay busy with CNN because they're so disingenuous and dishonest of everything they say and report. That's just who they are. This bill looks like it's going to do a lot of great things. And I almost guarantee you the markets are going to respond good. Why do business owners respond good? Well, they say, you're giving rich people tax breaks. Yes, you are. So we're supposed to be mad that the people who get tax breaks are business owners who more likely hired you, who more likely, if they have the extra money, not all, but some, probably want to start more businesses, right? And when they create more businesses, do they just have zero jobs from that? No, they have a ton of jobs when they create more businesses. Well, what's the reverse? You raise their taxes even higher. They don't open up 2 or 3 more plants, and they don't do no more hiring. People. It's easy to say you're giving rich people tax breaks, but what's the alternative? The alternative is they don't start up no more businesses. And if you raise their tax, it's like the tariffs. When they argue, tariffs is going to be passed to the consumer. Okay, well, a tax on a business owner, isn't that passed to the consumer? Because at the end of the day, a business owner, he's going to make his bottom line profit regardless. He's got mouths to feed too. He's not going to be like, they just taxed me another 10%, no big deal. No, that 10% is going to go, whatever goods that he's selling at whatever store or whatever products, it's going to go up 10%. You are paying it, right? So please skip me with this, tax breaks for the rich. Elon Musk, he's definitely sour. I was wondering why he was helping Trump the whole time. And it definitely did seem like he was in there to bring about fraud, waste, and abuse. But I never realized, what's it in it for him to bring about fraud, waste, and abuse in our government? I never could get why the richest man in the world was so worried about fraud, waste, and abuse. But then it came around time for Trump to implement his energy policy. And he decided not to extend the tax credits for the EV industry, the electric industry. Because truckers, they can't be mandated to go all electrical. And then you're driving a truck that has to pull over and takes hours to recharge. That's a backlog. That's just a nightmare on our logistics system. It doesn't work. And so people see it for what it's worth. Like, screw the EVs, right? So Trump was like, yeah, thank you, Musk, and then you're no longer needed. And by the way, we're not extending the tax credits for the EVs. So Elon blew a fuse. He went at Trump, and then he later said he recanted, said he's sorry. Now he's talking about primary and people who vote for this bill, but he don't know. Like, they're voting for the bill now, and he tweeted now, like, dude, you're way too late. You're way too late. The people who are going to vote on this bill, they're going to vote on it. Elon is rich, but no one man. Elon is going to try to move his weight around with his money. He can't go back to the Democrat Party. He can't. He act like he don't want to stick with the Republican Party, so he's kind of in purgatory, which is nowhere to be. So let's continue with the video. Hey, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and give me a subscribe. Let's get to it.
The Congressional Budget Office estimates it adds more than $3 trillion to the national debt and could deprive nearly 12 million Americans of health insurance through Medicaid. That, and it now comes with a double dose of existential terror for Republicans on the fence. On the one hand, the president over the weekend managed to drive one opponent of the bill out of seeking another term. On the other, Elon Musk has just weighed in on anyone voting yes. Quoting him now, every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame. And if that weren't enough, he adds, and they will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth.
And there you have it. Now Elon Musk is saying he's going to just start his own political party. I mean, the party of robots. We know what he wants, And I believe he's the kind of guy to go rogue and create the robot party. The problem is not too many people like him. He really only became really liked once he became a fan of Trump. And then people started rocking with him a little bit. He's really smart and a genius, and he's rich. You can't take that from him. But getting into politics can totally ruin a man. His reputation, everything he stands for. Because you can't just get into politics over one thing that's on your mind. When you get into politics, you got to know the whole wide range of basket of issues, and you got to come down on this side or that side. And once people start putting, your thoughts in this basket and that basket, and they're going to weigh it all out and see who you are, oh man, you got hell to pay, because, there is no, you just think you're just concerned about this one issue and you're going to create a basket like that. Well, people are, when it comes to their vote, they want to get as much as they can for their vote. So they're not going to just go vote for one single thing, and especially if maybe they like that one single thing, but all these other things you're opposed to that they also like. So when people go vote, they really try to get a bang for their buck. How much could I get out of this vote? And then most importantly, is it streamlined? Is there a system behind that vote of people who are actually, I can see where those tax dollars are going. Like if you're in a Democrat city and you vote, but your schools are still horrible, your taxes are high, your roads and bridges are horrible, education's piss poor, everything's wrong, but you're giving them your vote. A Republican city, yeah, they might squander some of that money, taxpayer money, but you see better roads, better bridges, better schools. You see where some of your money's going. So that's key. Let's get back to the video. You're on the grind with political decode. Just had to let you know.
Now, given that his Mars mission won't be ready to go for years, that's a lot of primaries. But that's not all. He also reiterated his call from 3 weeks ago for a new political party and says he would start one a day after the bill passes. Rock, meet hard place.
Senator Tillis, you know, you have to follow politics a little bit to know he has a thing for Trump. He does not like Trump. So you got one guy out of all the Republicans saying it's a bad bill. Probably not a bad bill if you just got one guy. You know, he seems to be an outlier. He doesn't like Trump. You know, that's all I'm going to say about that.
North Carolina's Tom Tillis chose The Rock, announcing that he will not seek another term, and he slammed the president on the bill's Medicaid cuts.
What do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore, guys? It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office.
So today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Senator Tillis is, and these are her words, just wrong. But listen to what the president has been saying on the subject going back a decade and decide for yourself.
CNN trying to fearmonger its viewers and say, oh, you're going to kick people off of Medicaid and Medicare and blah, blah, blah. Because Doge found that there's people 300 years old on Medicaid and Medicare and 250 years old, and that there was a lot of waste. The FBI just came out today, and they had a ring of 130 people, something like that, and over, you know, I think it was 20 billion or it was something $1 billion of fraud from Medicaid. So the administration said, yeah, we're going to kick off people who are frauding the system, who, you know, don't belong on there. That's who they're kicking off. So, you know, the Dems, they don't care if you're kicking off criminals. That's their voting base. So to them, it's like, oh, you're kicking people off? Because they conflate people with criminals. Immigrants with illegal immigrants. That's what the Democrats do, right? So Republicans party really is the law and order party. So you have to weigh that out, how you see it. Hey, thank you for tuning in. I was your host, Johnny Caruso, and you're on the grind with Political Decode. See you next time.
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question.
What happens if it comes to your desk, has the tax cuts, but also cuts to Medicaid? Would you veto that?
Well, we're not doing that.
Would
no,
you
we're
veto
not,
that?
I would if they were cutting it, but they're not cutting it. We're not cutting Medicaid. We're not cutting Medicare.
A lot to get to tonight. CNN Chief White House Correspondent Caitlin Collins starts us off. Caitlin, how concerned is the White House about potential cracks in the Republican coalition?
I mean, they're watching all of this and watching Senator Tom Tillis, in that scathing floor speech on Sunday, John. But then, of course, after he announced that he was not going to be seeking re-election, the president was cheerleading that and saying essentially good riddance to Tom Tillis, given they believe he's been a thorn in their side during all of this. And John, obviously, when they look at this overall, and I've been talking to White House officials about what they think is ultimately going to happen here, they do think this will pass. They don't think Republicans are going to defy the president on his signature legislation, as big and sweeping as it is, and with those potential cuts. The question is how long it's going to take to get this through, to get this done. And that's what they've been watching, obviously, very closely at the White House. But with Senator Tillis there, as he's coming out and he's saying that the president is being misinformed by his advisors on what is actually in this bill, and that it's going to make him essentially go back on the promises that you just heard him say there about not interfering with people's Medicaid benefits. I mean, the White House is just flatly rejecting that and arguing that it's wrong. But I think you have to look at, with Tills's decision yesterday to say he's not going to be seeking re-election, he doesn't really have a lot to lose here in terms of why he is speaking out and why he is saying that, or any incentive to say something that he doesn't actually think could put Republicans in peril. And so that is something they're watching, obviously, closely at the White House.